It happened on January 20th, 2025, inside the marble halls of the U.S. Capitol, under the gaze of millions watching live around the world. The cameras were rolling, the crowd was roaring, and at the center of history stood Donald Trump, the 47th President of the United States, taking his oath once again. But this story isn't about him. It's about a moment so subtle, so charged with unspoken tension, that it became a viral prophecy. A moment when an 18-year-old boy with a blank stare dismantled the myth of a billionaire's invincibility without saying a single word. Barron Trump stood tall, all 6 feet, 7 inches of him, positioned almost perfectly behind the podium, his posture impeccable, his face unreadable. Next to him, bouncing with the energy of a child at a theme park, was Elon Musk, the richest man on Earth, the founder of SpaceX, the man who had just been handed a government position with a made-up acronym, DOGE, Department of Governmental Efficiency. Musk was ecstatic, grinning, waving, pumping his fists into the air like he'd just won the Super Bowl, and Barron looked like he was attending a funeral. The contrast was jarring. It wasn't just noticeable, it was cinematic. As President Trump mentioned Mars during his inaugural address, Musk exploded. He threw his hands up, shouted, laughed, and gave a thumbs up to the camera with the goofiness of someone who had forgotten where he was. The audience erupted. But Barron didn't move. He didn't smile. He barely blinked. He stood there, stone-faced, scanning the room with the cold precision of someone who knew exactly what was about to unfold. Social media erupted faster than Musk's rockets. Within hours, the clip had millions of views. Who decided to put Elon Musk and Barron Trump beside each other? The difference in energy is hilarious. One politician tweeted. Others went further, suggesting that Barron's expression wasn't just boredom, it was judgment. Barron is the quiet kid who's already judging everyone's future, one user wrote. Another said, I would just like to remind everyone that Barron, Trump, and his facial expressions warned us about Elon Musk back at the inauguration. The world didn't know it yet, but this wasn't just a meme, it was a premonition. Months later, when the Trump-Musk alliance would implode in a public feud so brutal it would dominate news cycles for weeks, people would return to this moment. They would rewatch the video, study Barron's face, and realize, he saw it coming. He knew. But what did he know? What was behind that stare? Was it disdain, skepticism? Or was it something deeper, the awareness that this partnership, this bromance built on mutual exploitation, was a house of cards waiting for the slightest breeze? Inside the Capitol Rotunda, the air was thick with ceremony and grandeur. Flags hung like monuments to power. Dignitaries filled every seat. Cameras flashed. The hum of history vibrated through the marble floors. And in the middle of it all, 2 figures stood side by side, embodying 2 Americas, one loud, chaotic, desperate for attention, the other silent, composed, watching with the patience of someone who had seen this show before. Elon Musk, at 53, behaved like a man half his age, or less. He clapped enthusiastically, whooped, hollered, and seemed entirely unaware of the optics. He had brought his 4-year-old son X to the event, as if to cement his role as the eccentric genius who played by his own rules. He was the only guest speaker that day, and he milked it. This was no ordinary victory, he declared. This was a fork in the road. Elections come and go. Some are important, and some are not, but this one really mattered. The crowd cheered. Barron didn't. It wasn't that Barron was rude. He smiled politely when appropriate. He acknowledged the invitus with the grace of someone raised in the public eye. But when the cameras caught him standing next to Musk, his demeanor shifted. His jaw tightened. His eyes narrowed ever so slightly. And in that moment, captured in 7 seconds of raw footage, the world saw something it hadn't expected. A teenager with more composure than a billionaire. The video spread like wildfire. Memes flooded Twitter, now X, ironically owned by the very man being mocked. Comparisons were drawn to anime characters, to stoic warriors, to chess players 3 moves ahead of their opponents. Some said Barron looked like he was holding back a roast. Others said he looked like he was calculating the exact moment this would all fall apart. Both were probably true. What no one could have predicted was how quickly it would happen. Within months, the cracks would show. The alliance would fracture. And the moment everyone would point to, the moment that started it all, was this: Barron Trump, standing in silence, while Elon Musk danced on the edge of history, oblivious to the fall that was coming. The first time Barron Trump truly understood power, he wasn't watching his father, he was watching Elon Musk. It was Thanksgiving 2024 at Mar-a-Lago, and while the rest of the guests carved turkey and exchanged polite platitudes, Barron sat across from the richest man alive, deep in conversation about Mars. They weren't discussing rockets as toys or fantasies. They were talking about the future of human civilization, about why Mars was the only viable option for a second home, about the engineering challenges of atmosphere creation, about the philosophical implications of becoming a multiplanetary species. Mae Musk, Elon's mother, watched from the other end of the table, and later told Fox Business, "I was quite impressed with him as well." But Barron wasn't impressed with Elon, he was studying him. Because even at 18, Barron Trump had learned the most valuable lesson of power. Everyone wants something, and the people who want the most are the ones who smile the brightest. Elon Musk wanted access. He had money, fame, influence, but he didn't have the keys to the Oval Office. Not yet, so he latched on to Donald Trump with the desperation of a man who understood that politics, not innovation, was the ultimate game. He poured millions into Trump's 2024 campaign. He appeared at rallies. He posted endorsements on X, the platform he owned, amplifying Trump's message to hundreds of millions of followers. And when Trump won, Musk got his prize, an informal position leading something called the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, a joke of an acronym that revealed how seriously Trump actually took him. Barron saw it all. He watched Musk weave himself into his father's circle, laughing too loud at jokes that weren't funny, agreeing too quickly with ideas that hadn't been fully explained. Musk was brilliant, yes, but brilliance without self-awareness is just noise. And Barron had spent his entire life surrounded by noise. By January 20, 2025, when the inauguration arrived, Barron had already drawn his conclusions. He stood on that stage not as a participant, but as an observer. He wasn't there to celebrate. He was there to witness the beginning of the end. The footage from that day tells a story in silence. While Elon Musk bounced, clapped, and grinned like a man who had just won the lottery, Barron stood rigid, his hands clasped in front of him, his face a mask of controlled indifference. The contrast was so stark that it became its own narrative. One user on X wrote, "Elon is the overexcited class clown. Barron is the quiet kid who's already judging everyone's future." Another said, "Barron looked like he was already writing the breakup tweet in his head." They weren't wrong. Because Barron understood something the rest of the world was only beginning to grasp. Elon Musk and Donald Trump were not allies. They were two egos circling each other, waiting for the inevitable collision. The relationship had always been transactional. During Trump's first term, Musk served on White House advisory councils, positioning himself as a futurist voice in an administration obsessed with the past. But when Trump withdrew from the Paris Climate Accord in 2017, Musk resigned in protest, framing it as a moral stand. It wasn't. It was a calculation. Musk needed to preserve his image as a champion of sustainability while Trump played to his base. They were both performing for different audiences, and for a while, it worked. But by 2025, the cracks were showing. Trump's new tax proposal threatened to gut federal subsidies for electric vehicles, the very subsidies that had helped build Tesla into a trillion-dollar company. Musk called the legislation a disgusting abomination and accused Trump of sabotaging America's clean energy future. Trump, never one to ignore a challenge, fired back at a rally in Ohio. Elon Musk, great guy when he needed the government's help. Now he cries when the help stops. Sad. The feud exploded. Musk threatened to create his own political party. Trump warned he would destroy Musk's companies. The internet, of course, had a field day. Memes flooded social media. Think pieces analyzed the fallout. And everyone, from political commentators to random users on X, pointed back to the same moment, Barron Trump's face at the inauguration. Barron knew this was coming. He saw through Musk from day one. One user tweeted. Another wrote, "It's giving attack on Titan Energy." Barron saw it all from the beginning, like UN Yeager. The comparisons ranged from prophetic to absurd, but they all circled the same truth. Barron had seen what others missed. Because while Musk was busy performing enthusiasm, Barron was calculating consequences. He had grown up in the White House, watched alliances form and crumble, seen advisors come and go. He knew that loyalty in politics was conditional, that friendships were currency, and that everyone had an expiration date. But there was something else in Barron's expression that day, something darker. It wasn't just skepticism. It was judgment, the kind of judgment that comes from understanding the game better than the players themselves. He looked at Musk the way a chess grandmaster looks at an amateur who just made an obvious mistake. Not with anger, not with surprise. Just with the quiet certainty that the game was already over. Months later, as the Trump-Musk feud reached its peak, people would return to that 7-second clip and realize Barron wasn't bored. He wasn't tired. He was right. And if there's one thing more dangerous than being wrong in politics, it's being right too early. Elon Musk had spent his entire life building an empire on the idea that he was untouchable. He survived corporate coups at PayPal, near bankruptcy at Tesla, rocket explosions at SpaceX, and Twitter's chaotic transformation into X. He was the man who made electric cars cool, who sent astronauts to the International Space Station, who promised to colonize Mars within a decade. He was a genius, a disruptor, a visionary, or at least, that's what the headlines said. But standing next to Barron Trump on January 20, 2025, Elon Musk looked like something else entirely. Desperate. The cameras captured it all. While President Trump delivered his inauguration speech, Musk couldn't sit still. He fidgeted. He grinned at inappropriate moments. When Trump mentioned Mars during the address, Musk exploded with joy, throwing his hands in the air like a contestant who had just won a game show. The crowd cheered. Secret Service agents shifted uncomfortably, and Barron Trump stood there, expressionless, watching Musk unravel in real time. Social media dissected every frame. "Elon is giving I finally got invited to the cool kids table energy," one user tweeted. Another wrote, "Why does Elon look more excited than Trump's own son? Something's off." The observation wasn't just casual gossip, it was piercing, because what people were witnessing wasn't enthusiasm. It was validation seeking on a scale most couldn't comprehend. Musk had always needed to be the smartest person in the room. It wasn't enough to be successful, he had to be worshipped. He cultivated a cult of personality around himself, positioning his followers as believers and his critics as haters who simply couldn't understand his vision. But Donald Trump operated on a different frequency. Trump didn't care about vision, he cared about loyalty. And loyalty, in Trump's world, was measured in public displays of submission. So Musk performed. He showed up at rallies, posted endorsements, poured money into campaign ads, and played the role of the brilliant outsider who would help Trump drain the swamp. He even brought his 4-year-old son, Ozzy, to the inauguration, as if to signal that this wasn't just politics, it was personal. The message was clear: I'm all in, I'm one of you, I belong here. But Barron saw through it. He had spent years watching men like Musk orbit his father, each one convinced they were irreplaceable, each one eventually discarded when they stopped being useful. Barron knew the pattern. Musk was just the latest in a long line of powerful men who mistook proximity for permanence. The Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, was the perfect example. It sounded official, important, transformative, but it was a facade. The position had no real authority, no budget, no staff. It was a symbolic gesture designed to keep Musk busy while Trump focused on actual governance. Musk treated it like a promotion. Trump treated it like a toy to keep a child entertained. And for a while, Musk played along. He posted about government reform, efficiency metrics, cutting bureaucratic waste. He talked about revolutionizing federal spending, about applying Silicon Valley principles to Washington. He framed himself as the outsider genius who would fix what politicians couldn't. But behind the scenes, the tension was building. Trump's new tax proposal was the breaking point. The legislation aimed to eliminate federal subsidies for electric vehicles, a move that would directly impact Tesla's profit margins. For years, Tesla had benefited from government incentives that made electric cars more affordable for consumers. Without those subsidies, Tesla's competitive advantage would evaporate overnight. Musk couldn't let it happen. But he also couldn't publicly attack Trump without jeopardizing his position in the administration. So he tried diplomacy. He requested private meetings with Trump, hoping to negotiate a compromise. But Trump had already moved on. He saw the subsidies as wasteful spending, as handouts to corporations that didn't need them. And more importantly, he saw Musk as expendable. When the bill passed without amendments, Musk snapped. He called it a disgusting abomination in a late-night tweet that sent shockwaves through Washington. He accused Trump of betraying American innovation, of sabotaging the clean energy transition, of prioritizing short-term political wins over long-term national interests. It was a calculated risk. Musk believed his public persona was big enough to withstand a clash with Trump. He was wrong. Trump's response was swift and brutal. At a rally in Ohio, he mocked Musk in front of thousands of supporters. Elon Musk, great guy when he needed the government's help. Now he cries when the help stops. Sad. The crowd erupted in laughter. Musk's phone exploded with notifications, and within hours, the narrative had shifted. Musk was no longer the visionary outsider. He was the entitled billionaire throwing a tantrum. The internet, predictably, had a field day. Memes flooded, comparisons were drawn to celebrity feuds, corporate rivalries, reality TV drama. But beneath the jokes, there was something deeper: recognition. People remembered the inauguration video. They remembered Barron's face, and they realized he had been right all along. Barron knew this was coming from day one. One user tweeted, attaching the now infamous clip of Barron standing stone-faced next to an ecstatic Musk. Another wrote, "It's giving chess prodigy watching someone make the worst possible move." The video went viral again, this time not as a meme, but as proof. Because Barron hadn't just been bored or tired that day. He had been watching Elon Musk destroy himself in slow motion, and he knew exactly how it would end. Barron Trump had mastered the art of invisibility. In a family where everyone fought for the spotlight, he chose silence. While his father dominated headlines and his half-siblings built media empires, Barron remained a ghost, present but unseen, observing but never participating. He was the tallest person in almost every room he entered, yet somehow people forgot he was there. and that was exactly how he wanted it. Growing up in the White House teaches you things that no school ever could. Barron learned that words were weapons, that loyalty was currency, and that the people who talked the loudest were usually the most afraid. He watched advisors rise and fall based on a single tweet from his father. He saw alliances crumble over perceived slights. He understood, perhaps better than anyone in the Trump family, that power wasn't about being loud, it was about being necessary. So when Elon Musk entered the picture, Barron didn't need to hear the pitch. He had seen this story before. Musk was just another billionaire who believed proximity to Donald Trump would amplify his influence. Not realizing that Trump didn't share power, he consumed it. The Thanksgiving dinner at Mar-a-Lago in November 2024 was the first time Barron and Musk had an extended conversation. Mae Musk, Elon's mother, sat nearby and listened as her son discussed Mars colonization with the teenager. She later told Fox Business that she was quite impressed with Barron's knowledge and engagement. But what she didn't see, what nobody saw, was the calculation behind Barron's questions. Barron wasn't asking about Mars because he cared about space exploration. He was testing Musk. Every question was designed to reveal something. How does Musk handle disagreement? How does he respond to being challenged? Does he listen, or does he lecture? The answers told Barron everything he needed to know. Musk failed the test. He talked over Barron. He dismissed alternative approaches. He treated the conversation like a TED Talk, not a dialogue. And when Barron suggested that lunar colonization might be a more practical first step than Mars, Musk laughed, not with him, but at him. It was a small moment, barely noticeable to anyone else at the table. But Barron filed it away, because arrogance, he had learned, always led to mistakes. By the time Inauguration Day arrived on January 20, 2025, Barron had already written Musk off. He didn't need to say anything. He didn't need to warn his father or plant doubts in the minds of advisors. He just needed to wait. Because men like Elon Musk always destroyed themselves eventually. The viral video from the inauguration wasn't an accident. Barron knew the cameras were there. He knew how he looked, standing next to Musk's manic enthusiasm. And he knew that the contrast would speak louder than any words he could say. Social media users called it prophetic in telling they said Barron looked like he was already judging everyone's future. They were right, because that's exactly what he was doing. When the Trump-Musk feud exploded months later, the internet erupted with "I told you so" energy. The video resurfaced everywhere, on X, on TikTok, on news broadcasts analyzing the fallout. Political commentators dissected Barron's facial expressions frame by frame. Looking for clues they had missed the first time, memes compared him to anime characters who could see the future, two chess grandmasters playing 10 moves ahead. But Barron didn't see the future, he just understood human nature. He knew that Musk's need for validation would eventually clash with his father's need for dominance. He knew that Musk's public persona as a disruptor would conflict with Trump's demand for loyalty. He knew that two egos that large couldn't coexist in the same orbit without collision. And he knew something else, something darker. His father would win. Because Donald Trump had spent decades perfecting the art of public destruction. Musk was brilliant in boardrooms and on factory floors. But Trump dominated in the court of public opinion. When the feud went nuclear, it wasn't a fair fight. It was a massacre. Trump mocked Musk at rallies, calling him Elon Crybaby Musk and suggesting he was losing his mind. He threatened to investigate Tesla's government contracts, to audit SpaceX's NASA partnerships, to expose what he called sweetheart deals that had made Musk rich. Musk fired back on X, calling Trump a dictator wannabe and a threat to democracy. But the damage was done. Trump's base turned on Musk, Tesla's stock dropped. And suddenly, the richest man in the world looked very, very small. Through it all, Barron said nothing. He didn't give interviews. He didn't post on social media. He didn't even acknowledge the viral video that had made him a reluctant internet celebrity. He just went back to being invisible, watching from the shadows as the world validated what he had known all along. Because that's the thing about being right. You don't need to announce it. The truth has a way of revealing itself. And sometimes, the loudest statement you can make is silence. History is written by those who speak the loudest, but it's understood by those who listen. Barron Trump had spent 18 years listening. He listened to his father's promises and watched them mutate into weapons. He listened to advisors pledge loyalty and then sell secrets to journalists. He listened to billionaires like Elon Musk talk about changing the world while protecting their fortunes. And through it all, he learned the most important lesson power can teach. Everyone lies, but the body never does. That's why the 7-second video from Inauguration Day became more than a meme. It became a document. While Elon Musk bounced and grinned and shouted with the desperation of someone trying to convince himself he belonged, Barron's body told a different story. His posture was rigid. His jaw was tight. His eyes scanned the room with the cold precision of someone calculating exit strategies. He didn't look annoyed. He looked resigned. like someone watching a car crash in slow motion, knowing there was nothing he could do to stop it. The fallout between Trump and Musk played out exactly as Barron had predicted. The tax bill that gutted electric vehicle subsidies was just the opening act. What followed was a public feud, so vicious, so personal, that it dominated headlines for months. Trump accused Musk of being a globalist puppet who cared more about Mars than America. Musk called Trump a fascist narcissist who was destroying the country from within. The insults escalated. The lawsuits piled up. And the world watched, transfixed, as two titans of ego tore each other apart. But beneath the spectacle, something more profound was happening. People were starting to ask a different question. How did Barron know? What did he see that the rest of us missed? The answer was simple, but unsettling. Barron didn't have access to secret intelligence or insider information. He just understood something most people refuse to accept. Power doesn't create loyalty, it creates performance. And Elon Musk's performance at the inauguration, the exaggerated enthusiasm, the desperate need for approval, the childlike excitement, wasn't the behavior of a confident man. It was the behavior of someone terrified of being left out. Barron had seen that fear before. He'd seen it in every advisor who leaned too far into a handshake with his father. He'd seen it in every business partner who laughed too hard at jokes that weren't funny. He'd seen it in every politician who pledged eternal loyalty while secretly preparing their exit strategy. Fear disguised as enthusiasm, desperation disguised as confidence, and eventually, inevitably, collapse. The internet turned Barron into a folk hero of sorts, the quiet prophet who saw the future. Memes portrayed him as an anime strategist, a chess grandmaster, a time traveler who had returned to warn humanity. One viral tweet read, "Barron Trump is the only person in American politics with functioning pattern recognition." Another said, "If Barron ever writes a memoir, it's just going to be one sentence. I told you so." But Barron didn't respond to the attention. He didn't capitalize on his viral fame or give interviews explaining what he was thinking that day. He didn't need to. Because the video said everything. And more importantly, the aftermath proved him right. By mid-2025, the Trump-Musk alliance was completely dead. Musk had resigned from his symbolic position at DOGE, calling it a meaningless PR stunt. Trump had unleashed federal investigations into Tesla's safety records and SpaceX's contracting practices. The two men, who had once posed together at rallies and shared stages at campaign events, now communicated exclusively through lawyers and social media insults. And through it all, Barron Trump remained exactly where he had always been, in the background, watching, waiting, saying nothing. Because that's the power of silence. It can't be misquoted, it can't be weaponized, it can't be spun or twisted or used against you. Silence is the ultimate defense in a world where every word is ammunition. And Barron had mastered it. Years from now, when historians look back at the Trump presidency and the chaotic alliance with Elon Musk, they'll study that 7-second video from Inauguration Day. They'll analyze Barron's expression, dissect the body language, debate what he was thinking. Some will call it prescience, others will call it coincidence. But those who understand power, real power, the kind that doesn't need a microphone or a Twitter account or a billion-dollar company, will know the truth. Barron Trump wasn't predicting the future that day. He was simply recognizing a pattern he had seen 100 times before. And in a world obsessed with speaking, with posting, with performing, Barron Trump proves something radical. Sometimes the smartest thing you can do is absolutely nothing, because the truth doesn't need a defender. It just needs time. And Barron Trump, he had all the time in the world.